having any fun at all here in Germany. What's up? Welcome to Sunday Live. This is the first time I've ever done this. The old Sunday live stream. I think this is number 235, almost consecutive weeks of live streams on Sunday. And it's just been a real great thing for me. I look forward to it every week, just doing a live kind of Q&A thing with folks on the internet. Every week I get up and make coffee and I get excited to go to my little studio and do one of these. Or if I'm on the road, you know, like this, it's fun to do these wherever I am. So anyways, it's great to be here. We're at Guitar Summit. So for those watching now on YouTube, if you don't know, this is a really great guitar festival that happens in Mannheim. I don't know how many, I think they did it 28, I don't know if it happened before 2018, but there's been a 2017, is that right?
Number 4? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool, number 4. Yeah, and so I've been to 3 of them now, and it's just been super fun. You know, it's a great show. So everybody's having fun, I see. Yeah. So thanks to the nice folks that organized this, because it's just a really good show. You know, it's not as big as, you know, the NAMM show or something, but it's a great size show where you can, it's like a little more personal maybe, and the interaction's fun. And I've made lots of friends, and every year I come and, you know, see some familiar faces and always make new friends. So it's really great. So anyways, we've only got about 45 minutes today, so it's going to be kind of a short one. Usually sometimes I talk for like 2-3 hours. You go into over hour 2 and you're like, oh, I can't believe I've been sitting here this long. I guess I better go eat some lunch or do some work or something. But today's going to be kind of a quick one, so we'll get started. I don't play that much on the live stream. Occasionally I'll pick up a guitar and just, you know, like not even through an amp, demonstrate something if somebody asks a question. But today, we have a PT-15 setup back here, and we got a few pedals. This is Nigel, by the way. He's representative of Sir. Who is in the UK, and he set up this nice little pedal board and brought the PT-15 so that we can actually maybe do a little bit of like dialing in some pedals on the fly. So you were going to ask me, like, what would I do? Like, kind of like a real world. You get to a gig and you got a jam and you got a pedal board and you've never used it. Like, how would you set them up through a clean sound? This sound, straight clean sound. Okay, what am I going to do, right? So, I already asked the question.
You asked the question. Yeah, there's a board you've never seen it before.
Yeah,
you've got to do a show.
Yeah,
set up some sounds to get through the show.
Okay, so the pedal board, for those, because you guys can't see it on the World Wide Webs there. And I see there's some super chats coming in and stuff, and I'll get to you guys in a little bit. We're going to take a combination of questions off the internet, as well as combination of questions off the net, as well as from people in the room here. So on the board, what have you got here, Nigel?
Okay, so you have a tuner. So you have a TC tuner in the front.
The most important pedal of all. You can't do without the tuner.
There's a wood-shaped compressor.
Okay.
There's a Riot distortion pedal. There's a Sheba Drive overdrive pedal, and there's a Discovery analog delay in the loop. So we're running 4 cable. So everything from the tuner to the Sheba Drive is going in the front of the amp, and the Discovery's in the loop.
So the first thing I noticed here, you're going to hate me, but the first thing I noticed is that I think the pedal order is a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I would have put the Sheba Drive before the Riot. Otherwise, I think it's good.
So why did you do that then?
Because I was in a rush.
We've been traveling all over the world together doing things, so like, if I bust your balls, don't get mad at me. Yes. You
were hassling me, so.
You did a great job. So yeah, we got the distortion before the, so normally the order of the pedals, that's the first thing, would be, to me, the tuner, obviously, and then compressor would come next. I don't like running compressors after drives. And the reason is because it's going to bump up the noise floor no matter what you do, right? So if a compressor's job is to make loud things quieter and quiet things louder and kind of compress them into a smaller. So by doing that, you raise the noise floor by making the quiet things louder. So if you run it after your overdrives or distortion, you're always going to get increased hiss. So you kind of got to run it at the beginning of your chain. And then I would run the Sheba. That was similar to a tube screamer or something like that. So compressor and then an overdrive. And then I would run the Riot, which is the amp style drive, right? Yeah. So that would be the normal thing. And then we got the delay and the loop. So, okay, so let's start with the compressor and let's listen to what it sounds like when I just turn it on. That's pretty cool, actually, like right where it is. One thing I noticed that's nice is it's probably buffering the signal a little bit when I turn it on, so I get a little more high end. But this is kind of like, did you set that right now where you like it?
It's my personal compressor.
Okay.
So that's what I like.
I like what you do. That's good. Yeah, we work well together. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And what I'm liking about the way it sounds right now is that it's boosting a little bit and it's just pumping up the clean sound a little bit. That's how I use a compressor, is generally to make my cleans feel more like drive. Without it, it's considerably more sort of anemic sounding, right? Makes it feel more like you've got a driven signal and everything's pumped up a little bit more. A lot of people are like, I don't get compressors. I don't know why, people use them, and that's why you use them to me, is to just kind of bring everything into focus. And it actually makes everything easier to play, which I like. I don't want to work too hard. As I get older, I want to work less hard.
So on this compressor, you got a ratio, a gain, and a threshold control, and an attack switch.
I think what this compressor was sort of based off of, loosely, was this is Andy Wood's signature compressor, and he used to use a Carl Martin. It's a bigger pedal, and it's a great sounding pedal, the Carl Martin, but that's what, he's like, I like this pedal. Can we do something sort of like this, but maybe make it into a mini pedal and make it a little more, sort of pedal board friendly and stuff.
9 volts. Carl Martin came off 9s.
Oh, it did, didn't it? Yeah. Yeah. It's buffering considerably though, and I really like the way it sounds when it's on. So. That sounds really good to me. That's about where I would put it, so that it's bumping up the signal a little bit and just kind of preamping the amp a little. Okay, so let's try the Riot now. So this would be like the amp-like distortion. It's a great sounding distortion pedal. It's like the thing about the Riot is that it does actually sound really similar to the channel 2 of my amp. Let's hear the distortion channel on the amp. So that's the drive channel. Now I'll go to the pedal. It's actually really pretty close. You're gonna bump up the level a bit. Yeah. It sounds really good, man. So that's the drive in front of the clean channel. I'll go to the rhythm channel now. It's pretty shockingly close, I must say, isn't it? It sounds like really good. Damn. Really, really good sounding Marshall in a box style pedal, but with John's signature kind of tweaks. So that sounds pretty good. Now, one thing I'll say about it is, like, you'll notice when I turn it on, there's probably a little bit of a volume bump. Right? And I like that, because what's happening when you're playing clean, imagine like I'm playing like a I don't know, some sort of, if I turn that off, some sort of, clean. Right, so I've gone from like a clean verse and the drummer's playing quiet, right? Just kind of chilling. And now it's time to we're going to build into the chorus or whatever, and you're going to turn on your rhythm drive. Well, the drummer just opened up the hi-hat or started laying into the ride cymbal. The singer starts singing louder. The bass player's laying into it more. And I hear so many people do this thing where
They've set their drives kind of like this.
so I'm playing my rhythm part. Now your sound is like kind of like the same volume or a little lower when you turn on the drive. Everybody in the band got louder, and it's like you just disappeared in the mix. That always drives me crazy. So you got to get
The level on your drives, your gain staging up to where
the distort. You know, and the sound guy's like, "Oh, I think that's going to be a little loud. You need to turn your amp down a little bit, right?" And you're like, "Just wait till the drums kick in and the singer starts singing and the bass comes in, and it'll sound right." You can do the thing where like you actually turn your amp down a little bit at sound check and then like reach back. I do that all the time. Sorry, sound people, out there, but it's true. And I always ask you after the gig, "How was it for you?" And they're always like, "Oh, it was great." I was like, "Yeah, it'll be fine." Once the room fills up with people,
A couple of people commenting that they're struggling to hear you because of the noise gates and compression. Once you stop playing loud guitar, it takes a while to pick up the voice. I'm wondering.
There's nothing I can do about that internet. Sorry.
Can we get your vocal up in the monitor? That it maybe.
Oh yeah, can you maybe turn up is the sound guy back there? I think he's vanished actually, so he might not be here. I'll talk more into the microphone. Is that better? Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah. It's a little lo-fi the way they're doing this today. For folks just joining, by the way, I'm going to show you the nice folks here in the room. There they are. This is Guitar Sonnet Sunday Live, and we're having fun. All right. So anyway, you want to gain stage your pedals. I don't want to talk too much more about it, but you want to gain stage your pedals so that when you turn on the distortion, it gets louder. It definitely gets louder. So that's what we're talking about there. So now let's try the Sheba and see what it sounds like in front of the dirty channel of the amp. Actually, let's try it in front of the clean channel first. So. That might seem like a lot of boost, but if I turn on the compressor, that's what I like. I like to get that. When I turn on the pedal, I really want to hear it. I want to hear that jump, I want to get so I gain stage things kind of like radically in my rig, and it just seems to work live. When you turn on the pedal, you want it to jump out, you want your solo to come up, that kind of thing. And then in front of the distortion channel of the amp, let's hear what that sounds like for a lead sound. That sounds cool. I like it. So that's the Sheba drive. And that's about the way I set it. So like on most Screamer style pedals, I got the level boosted up to, what's that, 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
And I got the drive down around 10 o'clock or maybe even 9 o'clock. I don't generally run them much different than that. Tone usually below half.
Yeah.
It just warms up the sound a little bit and gives you like pretty much endless sustain. That's how I set those. And then we've got an analog delay in the loop. This is a discovery delay. So sounds cool. Tap tempo. Good rig. I could use this. This is like you could do like 90% of the work that I need to do with just a simple little board. So anyways, all right, so we set that all up, cool. Okay, let's take some questions. So let's start with the room, and then I'm gonna get to you guys on the internet. Can you guys hear me better now on the net? Nigel, tell me later. Respond. Okay, cool. So anybody got any, this could be about anything. This is like the way I do my Sunday show. Yeah. Oh, great question. Okay, so the question is, what's the setup for home that I use? I live in a condo, and I can't play loud at home, so I'll do one of a few different things. It's either maybe this amplifier, the PT15 that I'm using here today, has direct output. So, and it's got a load box built in, so it's one of the only tube amps out there that you can actually use with no cabinet and actually play through headphones even. So I could play that at home through headphones, or I can run it into my little UA recording interface and play through my monitors, because sometimes I'll do that. But I also have a plugin that I use a lot. It's a PT100 signature plugin from UA, and I'll play using that plugin quite a bit. It's built just like the amp with all 3 channels and stuff, so I can dial that up and then maybe add some delay, in the DAW and play through my monitors. And then the other thing that I do at home a lot is play through one of those little NUX battery amps, like the tiny little like $100, those are great. Like I have one sitting on a little coffee table, and I can just plug in by the TV, and it's got a little delay and reverb in it and overdrive and stuff, so that's fun too. Sometimes I like just playing, for like really low volume, those little things. Who else makes them? The little Mustang, Fender ones, I think, or the Black Star Fly 3. These lots of little amps available for like, $79. They're like the little the little guys. So I'll play through that quite a bit at home too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the question is, what monitors do I use? So I use Atom studio monitors at home. And I have the TV5 or TG5 or something at home. They're like the kind of cheaper ones that I have at home. And then at my studio, I use A7Xs. Yeah. So, okay. Anybody else? Anybody? Or we'll take one off the internet. Oh, there's a fellow in the back there. Yeah.
Can you just say the name of this cool overdrive pedal again, not the Shiva drive, the one you tested before?
Yeah, so that's he's wondering what pedals I'm playing through. So that's the Riot from Sir. And it's their kind of amp-like distortion. Yeah. So it's got a, and it's a mini pedal too. You can come up and see it after, but that sounds really good right now. It sounds awesome. And I'm actually running it through the clean channel with the bright on, and many times on amplifiers with bright switches, like Fenders with brights and that kind of thing, overdrives will sound like a swarm of bees, but John Sir really likes the Fender clean kind of classic sound with the bright on, with the sparkly highs and everything. So he really voiced this pedal to work well with a wide range of amps, but also with certainly with a bright switch on. So if you like a nice sparkly clean with some chorus or a bit of compression or that kind of thing, modulation, this is a great pedal, because then you can kick this on and it doesn't all sound like terrible all of a sudden. Yeah. Anybody else in it? Yeah.
How do you do that live? Do you rely on overdrive and distortion pedals, or would you use the amp for distortion?
Well, when you look at the amp, it's the 3-channel thing. So generally, I'm using that's my thing. I love amp distortion. This is making me think. That sounds so good right now. The pedal sounds like it's just such a good pedal. I've done videos on this pedal stuff, but sometimes you forget like how good things sound. But generally speaking, I'm an amp overdrive kind of person. And just the reason is I find like the dynamic of like all of this harmonics and stuff. I find like that they said 2 amps just do that thing that you're actually hearing, where it's just kind of like it's hard to get that out of pedals. Maybe it's just me, but the tube amps are running the high voltage, like 250 volts on the preamp, on the tubes and stuff. And when it's all an integrated thing with the tubes doing the thing and the amp and stuff, it's just special. So I'm still I just like that sound, the amp, that got some distortion from the amp. So, but pedals are a fact of life these days. A lot of people get their tones out of pedals and clean amps. So it's nice to know there's some killer stuff that you can get that's so close, because that riot really sounds good. What else we got? Anybody else? Any questions in here? Or we'll start taking a couple of. Yeah, one more over here. Generally not, because what you're so I'm on the drive channel of the amp right now. That's what happens. You get that, because the job of the compressor is to boost, lower sounds and to bring down higher sounds and compress it. You're always going to get that noise, out of it. Any compressor is going to do that. There's no way around it. So unless you use a gate or something, and then it's always a compromise, I think. So yeah. So I saw a little while ago here a super chat. Let's see.
I've got it here.
Oh yeah.
It's not a question. It's just somebody wants to give you $10 to go and buy some German coffee and to buy a Dodd FX17.
The best wah pedal ever. That's the one I don't know about. The DoD FX17. I remember I had a DoD the Bifect preamp. It was like a preamp pedal that sounded so good boosting the front end of a Marshall or something. There's a little secret. If anybody finds a Bifect preamp out there, I had one in the 80s. It was a two-knob, kind of like a micro amp kind of thing. But I just remember that was the first boost I ever got, like clean boost, kicking the front end of a dirty amp. I was like, this thing sounds amazing.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Pete, in what situation would you revert back to your original SIG guitar? Good question.
Yeah, well, when I want a neck humbucker for sure. This is my new signature guitar, by the way, that we just brought out. And it's a much more sort of, typically S-style guitar like affair, right? With an alder body, a maple neck. So my previous sort of signature model has mahogany neck, mahogany body, maple top. Might remind you of, guitars from Kalamazoo, Michigan, right? A little bit more set neck, that kind of thing. So yeah, generally if I want something that's a bit more, if I'm going to play a whole lot of love or something, I'm going to do it on the other guitar. But if I want the more, typically, if I want that Strat single coil thing, that's why I did this guitar, because it's got that hollow, single coil neck pickup thing that you got to have that for. So, cool.
Well, this isn't a question, but I thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about. So,
yeah,
someone was at the show last night, and he says Pete did a sick overdub, tweaking the hell out of the delay pedal. You could see the sound guy freaking out. Which I remember you doing, and I thought that'd be quite a cool thing to show people what you were doing, because you were on the floor listening to this stuff.
Yeah, so I got an analog delay here, and this pedal, this is a really cool pedal. So Kevin Sir designed this Sir Discovery delay. It's, I think, the greatest analog delay that I've ever heard. So it's got presets, first of all. So most analog delays you see are going to be kind of like around 300 milliseconds is max delay time, and it's one sound and that kind of thing, right? This pedal has up to, I think you can go like 2 seconds. See how far it will go. 1100. So for an analog delay, that's like a super long delay. I turned the regen way up, and you heard it pretty much going infinitely, right? It's going to go forever. He spent a lot of time tweaking this pedal so that it would oscillate like that, but not like be crazy out of control. So you can do this really musical stuff with it last night. And that's what this guy was talking about. So if I tap in a slower delay time, and then I'm going to bring up the regen, and I'm going to bring up the mix, and then I'm going to vary the delay time. Check this out and see what happens. like that.
Radiohead.
Yeah, yeah. Or you could do eruption, right? Let's see if I can get like close to that thing. So the way Eddie plays the last lick in eruption. That's how it was done, right? But you did it with a tape delay. But with this, it's really, and the regen is so controlled on it. A lot of the pedals, they'll start to get really loud, which can be kind of cool. But this one's just so musical where you can get these almost soundscape-like things going, by just varying the delay time. The way you do that is like, say the delay is set at, so about 440. If I turn it up to exactly 880 milliseconds on the knob, you get an exact octave drop, right? So double the delay time. I gotta quit it first, and then I'll do it. Bring it to about 400. You sit and do this stuff all day, right? It's pretty fun. So that's why I think it's one of the greatest analog delays ever made, because it's almost like an instrument that you can play. So when you get into it, there's all kinds of filters and mod and cool stuff that's in it too. So it's a really, really great pedal. I hope you guys can hear me on that, because I know that's really loud and on the internet. I hope the mic's coming through. But anyways, anybody else in the room got any questions? It's live Q&A, so you guys got to ask questions. I'll take them off the internet. Anybody? That fella right there. Yeah, sure. So this guitar has a new bridge humbucker. It's an Alnico 2 magnet, and I like Alnico 2 magnets because I've grown to like them. I used to think they were kind of dark sounding, and now maybe I'm just getting older and like it hurts my ears if I play like this loud. But I still want to do it, but like I don't want that high end to pierce, So it's got a smooth top end, the way I'm hearing it now, these pickups, that when you go up high, it just kind of sings without being too piercing. And that's what I like. With an Alnico 5 magnet, it would have a little more treble peak and sound a little bit sharper. So, kind of these Alnico 2s. And the other thing about this pickup is that I can run it in parallel if I want to. So I can pull this pot and then I can get a bit more of a like. Almost sounds like a telly or something in the bridge when you put it in parallel. So I like that. I like that a lot. And yeah, that's basically this pickup. So it's about a 9K, fairly hot, but still PAF style with an Alnico 2. And it's our wind, which is we've experimented a lot with an offset. It's not an exact coil, it's not an exact match coil. It's got a little bit of an offset coil thing going on. So that's this pickup. And then these are called V63s. And they're the pickup that was basically designed by John and Mike Landau. Now they call them V63s. So, it used to be called an ML Classic. But I guess I could have asked John for my own signature single coil, but this sounds so good. I don't want anything else. It's perfect. So 2 V63s and then a Thorn 2 is what that is. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What's your take on high-end cables?
That's a good question. So what's my take on high-end cables is the question. I've started recently using cordial cables, which they sent me some cables and I really like them. I've had a lot of people ask me to use their cables and try them, we make this great cable and it's this, it's that. It's like made out of, it's 24 karat gold or something, and it's just like, generally speaking, I'm like, there's a lot of things with guitar tone where I feel like it's like, God, one more thing to worry about, or do I want to rely on a cable that, like, what if the cable breaks? Then I gotta use another cable. Now I don't have my sound or something. So it's like, I don't even want to think about it. Like, was how I approached it for a long time. I'll just use like good cables that are, so for years I was using like a lot of like Planet Waves and, you know, just simple cables that were like easily available. But I got these cordial cables, and I must say, I did a test. They said, you can see this video actually that I did about cables, where I tested a bunch of cables of similar length. And I was like, there definitely is. Like, I almost didn't want to, you know, hear what I heard, you know. And a lot of people in the comments of the video said the same thing. They're like, I always thought this was a bunch of BS, but I can hear it clear as day, even on a YouTube video. So you can watch that and see what you think. I still use a lot of different cables, you know, but I mean, the cordials I'm moving towards, it's like, these sound really good. And if I could get a consistent supply of them and have them for the whole rig, it's like, and I think they're kind of reasonably priced, excuse me. I think they're maybe here. Isn't it a German company?
But they're not like high end,
They're-
usually they're like medium.
They're like medium, right? Like not too crazy expensive, but it's supposed to be, you know, oxygen free, you know, copper and all that stuff, and like really low capacitance. They just sound really pure. So I learned something, like cables, it's kind of interesting. A cable, you guys know what capacitance is with a cable? It's like over the length of a guitar cable, every foot you get a little bit of capacitance. And depending on the cable, you'll get more or less. And what capacitance does is essentially sort of dulls the top end of your sound. So if you run a 6-foot cable or a 10-foot or a 20-foot, you're always going to get more capacitance with that 20-foot cable, but it's like how much more? And some cables have less capacitance than others. So it's kind of interesting because it's like what ends up happening with capacitance is there's a resonant peak of a cable, and if it's got more capacitance, that resonant peak is going to move lower and lower and lower the more capacitance you get. And there's a little peak actually, and that's why some people think certain cables can sound like you've got like more gain. Like, and that's impossible that a cable can kind of have more gain. There's a passive thing. It's not adding any kind of preamp to your signal, right? But what it is actually doing is moving the resonant peak lower, which will always have a little bit of a bump to it. And the lower and lower that goes, if you move it kind of into where the guitar frequencies and the guitar speakers are really active and stuff, you do almost perceive it as like, oh, it's got more gain, like more upper, almost like you turn on a drive with certain pedals, like a little bump in an overdrive. It's kind of interesting. And that's all, it's just a personal preference wherever you like that resonant peak. So that's what you're hearing change with cables, is where it's actually like a flat line and it peaks up and then it falls off like super steep after that. And that's where there's no more high end after that on the cable. Anyway, geeky stuff. Yeah.
So you go for a cable which has a more neutral sound. That's something that would color something, because there are cables out which say they would color you some more vintage, would cut off some more top end, and people
Right.
like that. That's not what you're going for.
He's saying like certain cables will color your sound, and that's not really what I'm going for. I'm going for more of a pure thing. I would say if I had, I don't really want to use one cable that has a lot of color, or that has a certain, you know what I mean? First of all, I like pure top end. Like I kind of like high frequencies. Maybe I'm going deaf or something, but like I said, when I turn on that compressor, I heard it buffering and kind of giving me a bit more sparkle, and I like that. So I like something that, generally speaking, will give me as pure of a top end as possible. And then if I want to get some gain or something, or more mid-range, I'll turn on a pedal, because then I can add it. It's easy, you know? So I tend to think the whole cable capacitance thing is maybe not a good thing, you know? But I do get that some people like a certain cable length and a certain cable, because it might seem like it's giving them a bit more mids or a bit more punch or something, you know? That's that resonant peak. So I get that, but yeah.
There's no solo boost on that handboard. So what we generally use to boost solo?
So 3 channels on the amp. Yeah, so that's the thing. So if this is my rhythm. So I've got clean, dirty rhythm. It's about maybe 3 dB louder, you know, depending. I've got the amp actually set. I didn't mean to play this loud, but I turned it up and then it just felt good and sounded good. And it's like, so I left it there. I guess I like playing loud. But yeah, so that's how if you look at where I've got the master set, this one's on 4 and this one's on like almost 5 on the 3rd channel. So that's why the 3-channel amp. The 2 channels of my amp, the drive channels, are actually exactly the same. It's not like one has more gain or a different tone, but it's basically 2 sets of gains and masters. So I can bump the overdrive channel a little higher, get a little more volume, a little more gain on the gain control, and just have the 3 levels. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, back there.
In terms of tone loss, how would you compare the wireless with
The question is, how would I compare tone loss wireless versus cables? So with a wireless, you are buffered right out of the guitar, which means you've essentially, it's like you've got a buffer circuit that's converting your signal to low impedance straight out of the output of your guitar. So you're not going to get any capacitance. And that's why some wirelesses, like even on line 6s and stuff, they would have the cable tone feature that's dark, essentially adding like what capacitance does, a little bit of darkness to the signal. So some people like that, some people don't. If you use EMGs in your guitar or Fishman Fluence active pickups, you're also buffered right out of your guitar, so you get no coloration from the cable. Essentially, you know, it's part of why guys like David Gilmour and stuff in the '80s started using EMGs, because they essentially would drive a really long chain of effects. He's known for using a lot of effects, right? So. You know, and you get this consistency straight out of the guitar. So it's almost like the extreme version of what, you know, like not getting any coloration. Right, I'm going to take all this stuff out of the equation because you guys know how to go, true bypass, buffers, what should I do? You know, it's like, well, what if we just buffer right out of the guitar? Now, your sound, you can put a ton of pedals and effects in between the guitar and the amp, and in theory, you won't have any coloration, you know. So some people like that, but other people just like the sound of a little bit of coloration. And that's where the wire. So like Brian May, for example, right? Famous for using AC30 treble booster, the Rangemaster, huge part of his sound, right? The thing about a Rangemaster though, is that you can't really use it with a wireless. It sounds horrible because of the design of the Rangemaster is designed to work with the high impedance pickup system on a guitar. That's part of the sound of the Rangemaster. So if you plug in a wireless and then you come out of the wireless receiver into a Rangemaster, it'll sound like a swarm of bees. It sounds terrible. You can't do it. So Brian actually has to have a Rangemaster treble booster on his guitar strap. So he's got like the box with the battery powered and everything coming right out of the guitar, goes into the little Rangemaster he's got taped onto his strap, and then he goes into the wireless transmitter, and that's how he plays wireless when he plays live with Queen or with anybody. So yeah, so it's wireless is great. It just it presents a few issues sometimes, and that's one of them. Fuzz faces, tone bender style fuzzes, and certainly Rangemasters, some Univibes, not going to really sound that great with a wireless. And so there's workarounds, but it's always a bit of a compromise. So yeah, should we take a couple of things?
Yes. Okay, so this is from Simba Kim.
Okay.
He says, Pete, will you make the social media workshop we did yesterday into a YouTube video?
What did we do yesterday?
Which
I can't remember.
Social media.
It's Sunday.
Oh, the social media. It's Sunday. Where am I? We're in Belgium. The social media workshop I did yesterday into a YouTube video. Okay, yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
This is a good one.
Yeah, that's right. So yesterday I did all about YouTube and social media. Chris Buck joined me, and we talked about how to kind of have I told a story basically about somebody that I'm close with that recently scored a really, really big gig. And it was all, well, not all, but largely due to the fact that they worked really hard on getting their social media together, put their best foot forward, because it's kind of your resume and your calling card. It's the first place people go look at you. Hey, we need a drummer for the band. Oh, I know somebody that's really great. Oh, tell me their IG. I'll go look at them up, and they go look at them playing drums online right away, right? That's it. So if you don't have one, or if it's not very good, it can kind of X you out of things, and you don't even know it. Before you even, many times they're going to just pick people right off of, So that's what happened to this person I know. Is, she's a drummer, and she's now playing with Demi Lovato, and she just did like Rock in Rio in front of like 100,000 people the other day. And to me, that's like, in like 3 or 4 years, just like a rocket, like a meteor, and a lot of it had to do with having good social media, curated properly and stuff. So eventually that one day that the artist goes and looks and sees you and goes, yeah, I want that person in my band. You might not even have to audition, which is what kind of happened in this case. So that's what the clinic or the workshop was about yesterday. And yeah, I guess I could make a video. Yeah, anything else?
Yeah, there's one other question which is important. Maybe this is one of your regular viewers.
Yes.
Somebody called Poo Ninja.
Yeah, Poo Ninja.
Okay.
Hi, Poo Ninja. So,
He says, what's your favorite beverage? First drink in the morning on tour. Is it different than if you were at home?
hell no, it's coffee. Today I had a coffee in my room, and then I went downstairs and I had another coffee. Generally, I have some coffee with some milk of some sort, and I think I better have one more coffee.
Oh,
So, this is why I'm talking about this.
we have a gear question.
Yeah.
So this is a super chat from Andy Ranks. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
He says, thank you both. I love Sir. PT59R is on the cards. I'm looking for an Ibanez Destroyer like your own, Peter. I can't find one. Can you find me one? Then I can meet you to collect it.
No, I'm sorry. They're really difficult. I recently bought, I don't buy a lot of guitars these days, actually. I'm really happy with my Sirs. But I did find, everybody out there knows I'm a Van Halen nut. And I started to realize what a big part of the first two Van Halen records, and even the third one, the Ibanez Destroyer, was. The original 1975, 1976 Ibanez Destroyer. Ibanez made a copy, basically, of the 58 Explorer. They also made a V. They called it the Rocket Roll. But they weren't made out of Carina wood. They were made out of Japanese ash, essentially. It's called sen. And they're kind of a sandwich body with, the way that they're made and stuff. So it's this unique wood. And they looked kind of like an original, but the different wood and the different pickups and stuff like that, it's its own unique guitar. Those original 75, 76 Ibanez Destroyers. And that's what Eddie used on the first two records on anything that doesn't have a tremolo bar. So when you think about the guitar sound on You Really Got Me, that's the Ibanez Destroyer. It's not the black and white striped guitar, it's the Destroyer. And it's that massive, just incredible sound. It's a 24 3/4 scale, it's a Gibson scale essentially. So it's a totally different animal, set neck guitar. And when we think about those great, some of the other songs, I think On Fire, anything that doesn't have a tremolo bar on the first two records. Light Up the Sky, that's definitely that guitar. Light Up the Sky on Van Halen 2, the solo uses a tremolo bar, but it's an overdub. And the rhythm part, you'll notice, like no whammy bar dives or any kind of dive bombs or anything like that. That's totally that guitar. So it's just a very specific sound. I found one in Orange County recently. It's a couple of years ago now, I guess, that I got it. And it was it wasn't like cheap, but it was reasonable. And I went and I met a guy in a parking lot of like a gas station or something. And he brought up the guitar and I'm like, oh my God, look at it. It's awesome. And I gave him the cash on the spot, in the parking lot, took the guitar. I thought maybe it's going to be heavy or maybe something to play good. The neck on it, insane. Like just a beautiful, beautiful neck. So it plays so good. And now that guitar's got its own fan base because I use it in a lot of my videos and stuff. But it's just a really, really fun guitar. It's fun to play on stage too, but anybody ever play Explorer on stage? They stick out so far and I run into the bass player all the time. It's like, you gotta get used to it. It's a lot of real estate. Yeah. Anything else?
No, we're pretty much done for time.
Are we done for time? Okay, anybody else got any questions in here real quick? Yes, over there. Yeah.
If you could travel back in time, what would you say to your younger self?
Oh man, that's a really good question. It's gonna be a melancholy answer. So it's a great question, and it's actually a great way to close this out. So I'll just say to the folks online, I'm sorry we didn't take that many questions from the internet, but I knew it was going to be like that because but hopefully it's still enjoyable for you guys to watch, and I'll see you guys next Sunday. So the question was, if I could travel back in time, what would I tell my younger self? And I always give the same answer to this one. I left home at 19 with big dreams. I lived in Canada, grew up in Canada. Moved to Los Angeles to attend Musicians Institute. And I was just like, the sky's the limit, man. I'm getting started here. I'm going to go. I want to play rock guitar. That's what I want to do, right? Well, when you move to a foreign country, and especially, the distances are vast in the US and Canada, flights can be expensive. You're 19 years old. You don't have a lot of money to spend on flights. I left, went to LA, got into school, made my way, struggling for years afterwards. Point being, I didn't get back home a lot to Canada. And my parents were there, my whole family, right? My sister, everybody was up there. And so I did the best I could to go home and go see them. But it was probably once a year, maybe once every year and a half sometimes, right? Now, if you had told me when I was 19 years old, setting out with big dreams, and it's like, you feel immortal. If you had told me that, hey, you're gonna see your parents maybe another 16 times in your life, right? I never would have believed that. Like, what? That sounds insane. What are you talking about? And that's what happened because my dad passed away like 16 years later. I only made it home like once a year. So my advice is, and it's not like I didn't have it. I mean, I went home, I spent great time with them and stuff, but it wasn't enough, you know, and I wish I'd gone more. So my advice to young musicians these days, or people with big dreams and, you know, setting out on their way, maybe you're moving away from home, is go back home and see the people that mean a lot to you as much as you possibly can, because it's finite, that time. You can't get it back. And I wish I'd gone more. Yeah, so that's my Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks to the Guitar Summit. This has been really, really fun. I can't wait to come back and do this again. It's a great event, you know, that they have here, and I look forward to it. So I'll see you guys next time. I hope. Thanks, Nigel, for all your help.
Pleasure.
And thank you guys for attending. Thank you guys.
See you next week.